Imagine the Great Depression. Kids are so poor they go to school barefoot. And here comes this new kid in a fancy white suit with a tie. Imagine that kid showing up at a school in Monroeville, Alabama. Now there was a kid who got bullied. And who would come to his rescue but the girl next door, who was kind of the ultimate tomboy. So there's Truman Capote with his best friend, Harper. Two of our greatest writers grew up as next-door neighbors in this small rural town. They bonded over a mutual love of detective novels, and together they would team up to solve these small-town cases. I wanted to read that book so bad, I decided to write it. So that became, Tru Nelle. There are many, many, many events in my book that are based on their actual lives, and you can directly see how they translated to scenes in To Kill a Mockingbird or The Grass Harp. For me to actually be here in Monroeville is pretty special. It's kind of like walking into my novel. Wow. This is pretty amazing because this room is the central location from To Kill a Mockingbird. This is the table that Atticus Finch, the most beloved character in all of fiction, sat to defend his case. And in real life, this is the room where Nelle's father, A.C. Lee, worked. He often sat here and would walk on these floors to defend his clients. And Nelle and Tru would often sit up in that balcony and watch the proceedings. Believe it or not, this is the actual street that Tru and Nelle lived on. And all that's left of Truman's house, pretty much it's an empty lot. But there still remains part of the foundation right here, and that's the cool part, where you can actually see things that were in the book. This is the pond from the Monster Fish and the Two-Headed Chicken short story that Jenny had built for her goldfish, but Truman soon took it over, not only for the Monster Fish, but he would actually charge kids to come and swim in this rather opulent swimming hole. Right over here are the twin Chinaberry trees that legend would have you believe is where they built their tree house. So this is the actual wall that Nelle is balancing on in the story. And they would both do acrobatic feats off of it. Truman in particular was a gymnast, so he loved to do cartwheels and whatnot on this wall. Just like Truman's house is no longer here, unfortunately, Nelle's house is no longer here either, and it has been replaced by Mel's dairy dream. So you can no longer find any evidence that she lived here, but you can have an ice cream. I'm gonna get the Boo Radley shake. I heard that's pretty good. I visit a lot of schools, and I know a lot of kids who read To Kill a Mockingbird. And I love the idea that perhaps this book could be an introduction to that story. One of the things that kids want to know the most when I talk is, the story behind the story. And then they start talking, it's a way to weave into actual history. It's kind of humbling, seeing the Harper Lee site, and to know for all her celebrity and all millions and all the attention, she ends up in a plain, simple grave. This is Atticus Finch right here. And then just to go back and then see Sonny, the Boo Radley character is based on him, makes it real. Barefoot and dressed in overalls with a boyish haircut, Nelle looked to be about his age, but it was hard for Truman to tell. He was trying to avoid her stare by pretending to read his book. "Hey, you," she finally said. Truman gazed up from his pages. He was sitting quietly on a wicker chair on the side of the porch of his cousin's house, dressed in a little white sailor suit. "Are you talking to me?" he said in a high, wispy voice. "Come here," she commanded. Truman pulled on. Everybody's favorite ham.